Today, we're diving into a fascinating, high-stakes geopolitical chess match. It all started with a very public demand from the US president to China. It's a story about pressure, leverage, and two completely different ways of seeing the world. So let's get right into it. And here it is, the opening move. President Trump went on the record and publicly called on China to start protecting its own ships in the Strait of Hormuz, which is, one of the most critical oil choke points on the planet. This one statement basically put the ball squarely in Beijing's court and set the stage for a major diplomatic showdown.
Okay, first things first. A quick but really important clarification. The number being thrown around was 90%, but the actual data shows it's closer to this, 40%. Now, 40% is still a massive amount, don't get me wrong, but getting the facts right here is absolutely crucial to understanding what the real stakes are for everyone involved.
So here's our game plan for breaking this all down. We'll start with that initial pressure play from the US. Then we're going to dig into the three big reasons why China was probably never going to say yes. After that, we'll look at the high-stakes summit that was being used as leverage. And then, this is interesting, we'll flip the script and look at China's own power plays. Finally, we'll wrap up by comparing their very, very different approaches to foreign policy.
All right, let's kick things off with that pressure play. At its core, it's pretty simple. The US is publicly demanding that China send military help to a super volatile region. And the hammer they're using to try and force China's hand, a really important diplomatic summit between the two leaders.
The demand itself couldn't be clearer. Send your warships and help us keep the Strait of Hormuz open for business. Now you have to realize what a remarkable moment this is. You've got one superpower essentially ordering its main global rival to take direct military action. That is a bold and very public request.
Okay, so now let's put ourselves in Beijing's shoes. You've got all this public pressure, but the reality is, China is almost certainly not going to agree to this. And it's not just about being defiant. There are three core strategic reasons why their answer is pretty much guaranteed to be no.
So this really breaks down Beijing's thinking. First up, you've got leadership style. President Xi has a track record of not backing down from public threats. We saw that loud and clear during the trade war. Second, there's their official policy. China has been very vocal about wanting de-escalation with Iran, not military force. Sending warships would just completely contradict everything they've been saying. And third, there's just the practical reality of the situation. Reports were suggesting that Iran was letting Chinese tankers pass through without any issues anyway. So if your ships aren't even at risk, why on earth would you get involved in a conflict?
This all leads to a really crucial question, right? If China is almost certainly going to say no, then what is the US actually risking by threatening to cancel this big summit?
Well, it turns out that this summit wasn't just some photo op. It took months to plan, and it was widely seen as a critical shock absorber for a really volatile US-China relationship. It was designed specifically to keep a whole long list of disagreements from just spiraling completely out of control.
And just look at what was on the line here. We're talking critical trade deals, the flow of rare earth metals that are vital for US tech, and American technology exports going the other way. Canceling this meeting wouldn't just be a diplomatic snub. It would be a major blow to businesses in both countries and would throw a whole new level of uncertainty into the global economy.
And that brings us to China's leverage. Because make no mistake, this is not a one-way street. Beijing holds some pretty significant strategic cards of its own, and they absolutely know how to play them.
I love this quote because it just perfectly captures China's likely strategy here. Think about it. Why should Beijing jump in and help the US out of a tricky situation that, from their perspective, America created? There's a clear strategic advantage to just sitting back and letting the US stay tangled up in the Middle East, while China can stay focused on its own priorities.
And this leverage, it's not just an idea. It's very tangible and very economic. You can see the mutual dependence right here. On China's side, they control the market for rare earth metals, stuff that's essential for things like US Patriot missiles. On the US side, they are a massive, massive market for things like Boeing aircraft and soybeans. So while personal relationships and diplomacy are important, these hard economic realities, they often carry the most weight.
So finally, to really get why China is taking this stance, we have to look at something more fundamental. It's a basic difference in philosophy. The US and China don't just have different policies on this one issue, they are playing a completely different diplomatic game, especially in a place like the Middle East.
And when you put them side by side, the contrast is just stark. The US approach often involves taking sides, building these very tight, exclusive alliances, and being willing to use military force.
China's approach is the polar opposite. They make a point to maintain good relationships with everyone. They push for resolving conflict through dialogue, and they have this core principle of respecting national sovereignty. Joining a US-led military action would go against literally every single one of those principles.
And here's what that philosophy looks like in the real world. China has managed to keep good, solid working relationships with countries that are bitter rivals. We're talking Iran, Israel, and the Gulf countries. By refusing to take sides, they preserve this unique ability to be a potential mediator and a business partner to everybody. It's a powerful position that would be instantly vaporized if they joined a military coalition against Iran.
So, all of this leaves us with a final, really big question to think about. We are watching two competing models of superpower influence play out in real time. As global power continues to shift, which strategy is going to prove more resilient in the long run? Is it the American model of direct intervention and firm alliances, or is it China's strategy of quiet economic leverage and trying to be a friend to all sides? Something to think about. Thanks for tuning in.